What was the strangest moment in your life that you still can't explain up to this day? I was T-boned in an intersection. Not a very serious accident, mostly just shaken up. I was out of state at college at the time. Minutes after the accident, my cell phone rang and it was my dad. He said all of a sudden he was consumed with an overwhelming urge to call me, and was everything okay? I told him I was in an accident. He has passed away since, but he and I always had a very strong connection. I wish he would call me now, but then I guess it would be the strangest moment. Edit. You humans have beautiful stories to share. Thanks for sharing. This one time when I was little, my dad woke me up at like 2 a.m. and he said, "Get ready, we're going to McDonald's." I was so fucking confused and kept asking why, but he wouldn't answer anything besides, because, or, to have fun. The rest of my family, 2 brothers, sister, and mom, didn't come with, and they were still asleep when we left. The place was closed, and we just kinda sat there for an hour or so eating, then went back home. To this day, I still have no idea why he frantically needed me out of the house, and he swears he doesn't remember that happening, but the whole thing was so weird that I kept the toy that I got from the Happy Meal to remember it by, that I still have it to this day. Because it's my only proof of this weird fucking night that my dad, almost scarily, hurried me to McDonald's at 2 a.m. I have 2 thoughts. My sister shit the bed and they were worried I'd make fun of her. Maybe they somehow noticed like rats or something in my room. But were worried I wouldn't be able to sleep if I knew that there were rats and they needed an hour or so to get it out. Either way, very strange night that my dad refuses to tell me the truth about, which only makes me think it's something much worse. Like, I'm 23 now. If he said, "Yeah, sister shit the bed and we didn't want you to know," I'd have been like, cool, nice, good thinking, lol, but he refuses to believe that it happened. What happened? My mom was looking at an old photo album and talking about a party that she organized for her coworkers more than 25 years ago. She said that it was nice of me to have helped her there setting up the tables, etc. I have zero recollection of that party, nothing, so I thought she was joking. Then she showed me the pictures and I'm there. WTF. It's not like I was a kid. I was maybe 19 or 20. I wonder what else my brain erased. I was walking home one day and when I passed this one old dude's house and his dog was outside, and when I walked past I could have sworn the dog told me to get the fuck off the property in perfect English. I told work I had to go out of town for a week for a family member's, my grandmother's cousin in Texas, funeral. Completely fictitious. In reality I just wanted time off to hang out at the luxury home my friend was house sitting, hot tub, full bar, etc. The day my vacation started, I got a call that my grandmother's cousin passed away and they were going out of town for the funeral and expected me to go with them. I was at a gas station and just finished buying something from inside. I came out and a burly man with a t-shirt that had some sort of meat business on it came up to me asking if I was interested in purchasing bulk frozen meats. I was absolutely broke except for about $500 on my credit card available. I didn't want to buy anything but my mouth blurted out yes as if my life depended on it. A few minutes later I went home with a month's worth of vacuum-sealed fish and chicken. I don't know what said yes, but it wasn't me. When I was in my teens, my dad relapsed into his drug and alcohol addiction again. It was the last straw for my mom and we took off in the car at night to go for a drive and get out of the house. We were both angrier than we'd ever been. As we drove down the street, each streetlight we passed popped and went dark, for at least 3 blocks. At the time it really felt like our anger was so destructive that it was affecting the world around us. My mom and I still talk about that night and wonder WTF was going on with those lights. Edit. Since I've never gotten so many upvotes before, I'll take this opportunity to hijack my own comment and advise everyone to treat your bodies kindly. My dad ended up dying at 55, alone in rehab, after lying down for a nap. He didn't feel well and nobody took him seriously because he was a junkie in rehab. His heart gave out after years of abusing it. He was extremely flawed, but nobody deserves to die alone and ignored. Take care of yourselves while you can. I was driving back to high school after leaving something in my locker. I had a daydream that another classmate asked me for a ride home. In the lobby I ran into him, and he did just that. Then I drove him home. Felt super weird then. We never spoke even really before or after. Still feels weird now. Okay, this happened at my grandma's house. I was lying awake on the couch in the middle of the night, when this kaleidoscope of colors and lights appeared on the ceiling and began moving around the walls. I silently watched it until it disappeared and went to sleep. I shared the living room with my sister, and my grandma slept in a chair to keep us company. Since it was dark and I hadn't heard anything, I assumed I was the only one still awake to see it. The next morning at the breakfast table, my grandma brought up the light show she had seen the night before and didn't seem to know what it was. She described what I'd seen perfectly. After she left the table, my dad and aunt both seemed very concerned that she might be losing her mind. In my little kid brain, I thought if I told them I'd seen it too, they might think the same about me, so I kept quiet about it. If it hadn't been for the fact she'd seen it too, I would have chalked it up to a number of things. But I honestly don't know what to make of it. I have this ring that my mom had given to me. It used to be my late grandmother's. It was too big for me to wear on my finger, so I put it on a chain and wore it like a necklace. I remember being in class and playing with it while doing my schoolwork, and it was still around my neck the whole time. At the end of the day, when school had let out and everyone was heading home, I realized I didn't have it around my neck anymore. I panicked and ran back to class and tried retracing my steps but never found it. I was really upset that I had lost this ring. When I had gotten home and entered my bedroom, I saw the ring and chain placed neatly on the center of my pillow. It looked as if someone has placed it there. When I was very young, we were visiting my grandmother in another city. We slept in the same bed, in the basement. I woke up and saw a person, too dark to be recognizable, enter the room and come to our bed. They looked at us for a while and then left. The next morning, nobody had any idea what I was talking about. I guess it could have been sleep paralysis, but I didn't wake up in a panic. I just watched it happen, frightened. Staying at grandparents for the weekend, they're eating dinner in dining room, I am in living room, open concept house, everyone sees each other, power is lost, lights are out, dark as could be. Power comes back on in what seems like 1 second. Grandmother is asleep in her bedroom and my grandfather was out in the garage. It has fucked with me my whole life, 31 now, I was about 5 or 6 at the time. Sadly both have passed by now. Only matrix situation that messed up in my life so far. I spent a night a bit drunk with some friends sketching and sharing new ideas for an art project we were working on. We talked a lot about using a fire extinguisher filled with paint for a background effect on huge canvas or a full room, but were wondering where we could get one for cheap and if it would work as we expected. Around 5 a.m. I leave my friend's apartment to take the first subway home, and I shit you not, 2 streets further on my way and in the middle of the sidewalk there is a fucking empty fire extinguisher. Took it home. It was such a strange coincidence, since I never stumbled upon an empty fire extinguisher in the street at any other point in my life. I was pretty sure I dreamt about it when I woke up later, but nope, it was still in the corner of my bedroom. I have what I call totally useless precognition. I routinely dream about mundane events. People in a room having a discussion, going to a concert and getting dinner beforehand, a random conversation. When the events occur, I very clearly remember having the dream about it. Nothing happens. There's no event. There's no important thing. It's just that I dreamt about it months or years before. Totally useless precognition. I used to sleep over at my grandparents a lot when I was a teen, and even though I grew up in their home, I was always afraid to sleep in their living room because I always felt a scary presence. One night I was falling on their couch with my back to the room when I heard a dragging noise from right behind me that lasted several seconds. I was alone and it scared the absolute shit out of me and took a few minutes for me to be able to turn around, and when I finally did I saw that the heavy redwood coffee table had been dragged like a foot across the floor. I could see the tracks in the carpet. If it weren't for those tracks I would have dismissed it as sleep paralysis. The last time I went to that house before my grandma died was when she was dying in the hospital and I took her electric wheelchair back to her house. I didn't see anything, but from the moment I entered the driveway everything felt wrong, and when I did go into the house I had a crushing, overwhelming sense that if I didn't leave now that presence was going to hurt me, and badly, I literally ran out the front door and didn't look back. I inherited the house and was glad to sell it. IDKY, but I swear it didn't like me. When I was 9, I was told to clean my room and we would go to the local video store to rent a video game for the weekend. I clean my room, my mom approves of the cleaning job, we go to the store and I get my game. Whole trip lasts 20 minutes tops. Get back and all my toys are spread out across the floor in neatly organized lines, very deliberate looking. No one else was in the house. Nothing missing. Just this strange toy issue. My guess is it was a friend of mine either fucking with me or looking for something of theirs, but no one ever confessed. Why does my pen suddenly disappear when it falls on the ground? So, I think it was last year fall. And I was sitting in my house with other friend. We are Latvians, that happened in Netherlands, and I randomly started thinking about Latvian who wants to be a millionaire host for no reason. I haven't heard anything or even thinking about him last 5/6 of a year, totally forgot about that he exists. And then I asked my friend if he remember him and, he said that sounds familiar but don't remember. Then I just told him, that he was host of that show. And my friend asked why, I said, just came in head. And next day I read news that he went to Netherlands with family and died on street from heart attack day before. And I would say around that time also. Pretty often these things happen with me, I cannot explain. Few friends also have seen, that I randomly say something for no reason and then it happens. Sorry for my English. When I was in high school, my family lived in a house that sat about 300 feet from the road. Every morning I had a long walk down the driveway to meet the bus, and since we lived in the country, the bus came pretty early. One morning while I was walking, something that looked like a spotlight crossed the yard in front of me. Sort of the opposite of a shadow. It wasn't completely dark outside, so I could see there wasn't anything flying above me, and other than the normal sounds of being outdoors, it was silent. I had forgotten about it until I read this post. So weird. I had a few weeks of pregnancy symptoms. I'd been pregnant before and it was exactly the same. So I took some tests and did them daily until eventually I got weird faint lines. One night I had to stay awake next to my open window all night with headache and nausea. I knew at this point I was certainly pregnant and I was about to get a positive test soon. So I tried that morning and it came up very faint. I asked my twin was she unwell lately or anything and she was like yeah I was up feeling ill all last night why? I said well I've been feeling sick a lot lately. She said, me too, and sent me a pregnancy scan telling me it's early so not to tell anyone. I had my period a couple of days after. When I was a kid, I woke up to 3 women standing outside my window. I lived in the country so I don't know how or why they were there. They were nuns, 2 in red, 1 in white, with others behind them. I had never seen nuns before in my life. When I found out they were real, just not in red, it freaked me out so much. I jumped out of bed and started screaming at the old women in my window. My mom ran in but didn't see them. I didn't sleep there that night. I moved to the living room. The next day there were signs of trampling through the bushes and flattened grass under my window. It's been about 25 years and I still remember the eerie faces looking at me with anger and scrutiny. I don't know who they were. When I was young I saw burglars tiptoeing around my kitchen, about 3 to 4 of them. I didn't say anything or move, I just watched them and went back to sleep. But when I woke up in the morning nothing was missing. I saw my doppelganger while driving in a parking lot. We passed each other going super slow, and made eye contact. We both started laughing, and then continued on. My wife was sitting in the passenger seat, and saw him as well. It was super weird, and really fun for whatever reason. We still talk about it 10 years later. I regret not stopping and finding the guy to take a photo together. When I was 11 I was hanging out at my friend's grandma's place for a party and we were on her dirt road playing around on bikes at like midnight because the party was still raging on. I go off a few yards into the darkness away from the only street light for about 500 feet and out in the bushes beside the road. This ball of light, I'd say the size of my fist, comes out of the bushes and then sinks back behind something. At first I think it's one of the other kids with some weird flashlight, but after calling out there was nothing. The way that light moved was weird to me. It was very fluid and loopy, if that makes sense, sorta the same motion a conductor moves their pointer for music if anyone has seen that before. I can't really find any scientific explanation, so I'll just assume it was a ghost or fairy or something. When I was 7 or 8, I used to spend Friday nights at my grandma's house. And she spoiled the crap out of me, so I loved it. One night, though, I suddenly had a strange urge to call my mom. I dialed my phone number. I knew my own number right. A woman answered, and I suddenly blurted out, "Mom, come and get me." I have no idea why, to this day, that came out of my mouth. Like I said, I loved it there, and up until that moment had no thoughts of being picked up. Anyways, the person on the other end starts to sound panicky and says, "Where are you?" It hits me that this isn't my mom, so I just hang up, and go back to watching TV. So weird, and while it seems so minor, it's stuck with me for 30 plus years. I was at work several years ago, and a coworker had a massive seizure. He later told us he had never had one before. Everyone started freaking out, and a man came over and gently held down because he was in danger of slamming into a desk. When the seizure passed, the man stood up and said, "Ambulance should be here soon, so my work is done," and left. The weird thing, nobody had any idea who that guy was. We were all so concerned about that we didn't really register that the guy was a stranger until was taken to the hospital. We were in a building that required a keycard to enter, and it was closed to the general public. There were only 12 of us in that office, and he wasn't one of us. So who the hell was he? I had a dream once, and within the next month, everything from that dream happened in real life. For example, in the dream my wife rearranged our room, which is weird because she hates rearranging stuff, and then the next week she arranged it exactly like dream. In the dream I also got promoted, and then less than a week later I did in real life. After I totaled my car, a man with burn scars all over his face and hands came to my window. He asked if I was okay and then came and sat in the passenger seat. He said, "I need you to know that everything happens for a reason." I said, "I know." The next thing I know, I'm talking to the other driver and police, and the guy is just gone. No one else saw him. Friends and I in my shitty Mazda smoking weed in the alley behind my GFS house. Neighbor walks out and starts punching an electric pole until his hands look like hamburger meat and there is blood soaking his white shirt. He calmly walks back into his house. We uncalmly get the fuck out of there. Thanks for watching. See you later.